Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I just want to thank God for another amazing opportunity to be sharing this message with you. It's always a pleasure sharing these messages with you. But before I go any further, I'd like to ask you, if you love these messages, please subscribe. Press a subscribe button and subscribe with us so that you'll be the first person to get a notification when we've got a new message of the week. We're going to be having these messages every week, so you'll be the first person to know, to get that notification that yes, there's a new message that has been uploaded on our YouTube channel. Also, please leave a comment. We'd like to hear from you, what you've learned, what your feedback from the message, so it's always a great pleasure to hear from you and to get your comments. I enjoy reading your comments and your words of encouragement. I'm always encouraged by the feedback that I'm getting from you. Today I'm going to be talking about it is time to leave the familiar. It is time to leave the familiar. We know that it's so easy to be attached to the things that we've been doing for so many years. It is so easy to be attached to the things that we are comfortable with, the things that we've known. For instance, staying in the same city where we were born, going to the same job we've had for the past 20 years, having the same kind of friends we've had for the past 20 years, having the same conversation, the same discussions, going to the same places that you've known, not going to the places you've never known. So a lot of people are doing that, living the same kind of lifestyle. And yet we are expecting to grow, want to see change in our lives. But all I know is that in order for you to step up to where God wants to be, in order for you to be all that God has created to be, you need to grow, you need to evolve, you need to do what you've never done before, you need to be in the places you've never been before. In order to become all that God has created you to be, you have to step out of faith and leave the familiar for the unfamiliar. We see this in the story of Abraham. When God spoke to Abraham in the book of Genesis chapter 12 verse 1-2, he came to Abraham and said, go from your country, from your people, from your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you, and I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. When God spoke to Abraham, he spoke to Abraham at that time where Abraham was comfortable, he was doing very well, he was not complaining about anything, everything was comfortable. According to him, everything was fine, he was doing very well, and he was happy with his life, he was happy with the level of success he had achieved at that time. But when God spoke to him, he had something greater than what he had at that time. But what God had for him, he had to step out of faith and leave the familiar for the unfamiliar. So when God said to Abraham, leave your family, you leave your household, leave your city to the land that I will show you. It required Abraham to step in faith and trust God. It was a journey that needed Abraham to rely on God only. Because when you leave the familiar and do the unfamiliar, the things that you've never done before, you cannot just do it on your own. You need to trust God and say, God, I may not know where I'm going. I may not know what I'm doing. I might not understand what I'm doing, but I trust you. I trust your word because your word is dependable. Your word never changes. It is the same yesterday and forever. So when you step up of faith, living the familiar, doing the things we've never done before in order to have the life that you've always wanted to be, it will call you to walk in faith and trust in the Lord and rely in God alone, not in your own understanding. As it says in his word, lean not in your own understanding. So when you leave the familiar for the unfamiliar, you need to have your mind renewed, rely in God, walk in faith, and trust God alone, because it's only in that way you will become all that God has called you to be. We learn in the scriptures that when Abraham obeyed God to do what God has asked him to do, he became great. He inherited the whole world because of obeying God's instruction, because of doing what God has asked him to be. Imagine if he stayed in his land and he said, God, no, I cannot leave what I have already. I'm already great. I've got enough. I'm okay where I am. But God wanted him to step up in faith and give him the inheritance that he has prepared for him. But he had to leave the familiar for the unfamiliar and rely on God and obey God's instruction. So this is a beautiful example that in order for you to grow, you need to leave the familiar and for the unfamiliar. We look at people, you find a lot of people that they are having the same kind of friends. You have the same kind of friends you've been having for the past 20 years. And you find that some of your friends, you know that they talk bad behind your back. They are gossiping about you. You are having the same kind of conversations you've been having for the past 20 years. You are having the same kind of conversation. You're going to the same places, but yet you expect to grow. There is no growth. You cannot grow doing the same things, because in order for you to get what you've never had before, you need to do what you've never done before in order to have the life that you've always wanted, or to be all that God has created to be. You need to evolve, you need to grow and be all that God has called you to be. We also look at the relationship. You find that some people are stuck to the same relationship. All they've ever known is being cheated on. All they've ever known is being a side chick. All they've ever known is being cheated on. All they've ever known is being abused, disrespected, dishonored, and they've even become immune to this kind of treatment, because that's all they've ever known. They even see this relationship is not serving me. This relationship is not benefiting me, but I cannot leave this because this is all I know. This is all I've ever known. But I'm afraid to step up and do what I've never done before, because I don't know what will happen. I'm afraid of the unknown. But God is saying today, you must leave the familiar and do what you've never done before, and go for the unfamiliar, so that you can become all that God has called you to be, all that God has created to be. We also look at the Israelites. The Israelites, when they were slaves in Egypt for so many years, and God decided to take them out to the promised land. So as they were journeying with Moses, they kept on whining along the way, and they were asking, why did you make us to leave Egypt? Because Egypt was better. They were used to being slaves. It was more comfortable, even though it was not fair to them, but they became attached to the familiar. But God had to take them out of where they were to where God wanted them to be, you see. So just this message is so powerful, because we know that a lot of people want to grow in their business. They want to grow in their relationship. They want growth in every areas of their lives. But living the unfamiliar, it is not easy. You find a person, they want to change how they look. They want to invest in themselves, but they don't want to do what they've never done before. But you need to remember that you cannot grow in the familiar. You cannot grow in the familiar. You cannot access God's best for you if you are doing the same things you've been doing before. You need to leave the familiar. Stop what you've been doing. Stop the books that you've been reading. Stop watching the things that you've been watching, and start accessing new information, and start going to the places you've never been before. Start investing into new relationships. So you need to grow as a person. You need to grow as a person. You need to evolve as a person. Invest in new relationships. It's time that you invest into new relationships. You need to invest into new ideas. Invest into new ideas, because if you're still holding on to those ideas that you've known before, you need to unlearn and relearn. You need to let go of those ideas that you've known, because you'll remain the same and you can never change and become all that God has called you to be. So you need to invest into new ideas. Start to go to different places, the place that you've never been before, and start going to those places, and start meeting the people that you've never met before. Go and start doing things that you've never done before, in order to be all that God has created to be. So my question today is that, what is it that God has called you to do? There are things that have been in spirit. There are things that have been bothering you, and you've been saying, one day I'm going to do this, one day I'm going to do this. But God is saying to you today, that thing that has been bothering you in your heart, that thing that has been burning in your heart, that thing that you've been saying, that keep you awake at night, you think about it and say, one day I'm going to do this. God is saying it's time to step out of faith and be all that I've called you to be. He says, fear not. Don't worry about the how. Just trust God, because the how is for God. Your responsibility is to step in faith and trust God and rely on God. The Bible says the just shall live by faith alone. So you cannot walk by sight, but you need to walk by faith and trust in God, that God, that which that you've called me to be, I am ready to step up in faith and be all that you've called me to be, because you'll never enjoy the life that God has created you to be. There is a purpose that God has called you to be. He created you for a purpose. He didn't bring you on this earth just to be a number, just by mistake. You didn't come here by mistake, but there's a purpose that God has for you. And it is time for you to leave the familiar and go for the unfamiliar. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's not going to be easy at the beginning, but you just need to make a decision and say, God, hold my hand and walk with me and help me to be all that you have called me to be. There's someone out there who's waiting to hear a story. There's someone out there who wants to learn from your experience. There's someone out there who wants to become all that God has called him to be, and their life will change through your story. Their lives will change through what God has installed inside of you. But you need to leave the familiar and go for the unfamiliar and trust God. So what is it that God has been bothering you? The thing that has been in your spirit for a long time, and you say, one day I'm gonna do it. Some of the people, they even lose their jobs, not because it's by mistake. It's because God says, I've got something that I've called you to do. And in order for you to start doing that, you have to lose your job, because this job has made you comfortable. But God is saying, now there's a business. I'm giving you an earth-shaking idea, but it will call for you to step out of the familiar and do the unfamiliar. And you need to trust in me and walk with me. So, what is it that God has been calling you to do? What is it that has been burning in your spirit? It is not your mind that is talking to you. It is God saying to you, it is time to leave your land. It is time to leave the familiar. It is time to leave your household. It is time to leave the things that you've known for so many years, so that you will be all that I've created you to be. God is waiting for you. He's saying this is the time. Maybe so many things have happened this year that you thought they were unfair to you, but it's God shaking you, shaking the foundation, and say it is time now to go and be all that I've called you to be. And I'm waiting on you. I've been waiting on you. And sometimes it might be uncomfortable when God calls you to do what you've never done before, but God is waiting on you. And this is only when you do what God has called you to be, you'll be fulfilled in life. You feel like you are living, but you are not doing you are not fulfilled with your life that you are living. You are doing the same things, going to the same jobs, talking to the same people. You're not investing in yourself. You're not investing in anything. But God is saying to you now, it is time. I need you. This is the time that you need to step up and start doing what I've called you to be. And I believe this message is going to help you. It's going to remind you. It's going to talk to you. I don't know who I'm talking to, but I know someone out there. God is calling on you. He says, this is a time. You cannot continue wasting the time, because time is running out. Time is running out. God is waiting on you to step up and leave the familiar for the unfamiliar. I hope you were blessed by this message. I hope that it was talking to you, and it is God talking to you and say, you have to take that action. Thank you very much for watching. I thank God for you. I hope you are blessed, and I can't wait to talk to you next time. Have a beautiful day, and God bless you.